Okay. All right. My name is JJ Tabane. Tonight, spending the evening with you tonight, discussing the Constitution. The Minister Sisulu is saying, what's the use of the rule of law? What's the use of the Constitution if it doesn't respond to poverty? And, of course, various guests weighing in that regard. Ivan, always a pleasure to have you in any conversation. What's your take on what has been raised? Surely, lots of issues, as I was saying, that were raised here that nobody can argue with. The fact that we've got to review to see how best we make this constitution work for everybody. Got to review to make sure that we make sure it doesn't just benefit the few, but benefits the majority. But the judges being house Negroes, I found that a little bit of a hot potato to swallow. I mean, how do I look at somebody like Justice Seneke and say he's a house Negro? I find that a little a bridge a bit too far, but maybe it's just me. What's your view?
Judge, thanks. I think that one is extremely worried about how the debate is being tackled. I think that it's either we have a debate or we are going to be called names.
Yeah.
Because I think my first submission is that what Minister Lindiwe Sisulu have raised is what Numsa would have raised in 2012.
Yeah.
When the ANC, in its build-up towards the National Congress, made a confirmation through its Jeff Radebe was heading the economic policy.
Yeah.
The ANC went public to suggest that they are convinced that for the past 18 years in 2012, they would have failed to dent poverty, unemployment, and inequalities.
Yes.
And they made a clarion call to the country that they are calling for a debate, a festival of ideas, and there were no holy cows in that debate.
Yeah.
That include the Constitution being up for debate.
Yes.
The institution that responded, which attacked the ANC, it was De Klerk Foundation. As a union, Numsa, having read what De Klerk Foundation was attacking the ANC about, De Klerk was very clear. And I think that I want to be very clear that I'm not, that there's a discourse that want to liquidate Lindiwe. There's a discourse that says, and first, I don't know, I've not discussed with judges in my life. I don't know how to discuss with a judge. I mean, I see a judge in a court, and I respect honorable. And if there's one thing that she has achieved was to open up a debate. I mean, I'm sitting in a panel with the judge. I'm thinking, how do I participate in this discussion? But I think she has done that. She has opened a debate. And I think we should not be liquidating. And I want to put it differently, that we would
but she clearly tries to liquidate the judges. She's saying these people don't have a mind of their own.
I think that the judges must listen and they must assess what is happening. They must debate back. I don't think we should polarize the debate. I think we must engage. I don't think that there should be holy cows. And I want to argue that we started this debate. We're happy. That's what I want to confirm first. That within the ANC, there is somebody who could agree with us that there is a problem with this constitution. This constitution is a product of a negotiated settlement that has run its course, that has delivered poverty, unemployment, and inequalities. We have not addressed the land question.
The problem, the Constitution, or the problem, the implementation of what is said in this Constitution. I mean, this Constitution talks about socio-economic rights, and half the time, people are at the Constitutional Court saying, my right to water, my right to electricity, my right to housing is being violated. Surely there must be something to be said about the poverty of implementing those good sentiments, so to speak.
De Klerk says, I have not conceded power to a political party. I've conceded power to a constitution, which is sovereign and courts. In other words, at the point of victory in this country, what we lost was parliamentary democracy. And what we lost was parliamentary democracy, the negotiated settlement, which protected white monopoly capital and the property owning class, that ensured that the land question cannot be touched, remained completely unchanged in 28 years of our democracy. Our people are economically marginalized, our people are landless, and
as a result of the Constitution,
you can't touch anything. Tell me, how can you touch? You can't. Why the ANC has not delivered the land in 28 years? They have not delivered. They have delivered less than 10%.
Yeah.
Even the 10% is lying fallow because they have not taken a decision that they are going to affirm black and Africans into ownership and control of the economy as the only way to change power relations.
But the Constitution doesn't stop them doing that. They could have amended it if they want.
No, but they have no revolutionary agenda. And if Lindiwe wake up one day and realize that we are about to be removed, by the way, if the local government election is anything,
go by, yes.
The ANC has lost the confidence of our people. They would have to do a lot of work. But they signed a deal, and the negotiated settlement have run its course. It will not deliver to the aspiration of our people.
Okay, let me go to Tate Pali Lehohla, who's joining us on the panel as well. Tate Lehohla, please weigh in. Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight. Weigh in on this. I'm stuck on this thing that says, who is there to blame for the poverty? It's established the poverty is in unacceptable levels, unemployment at 46%, inequality the worst in the world. But can we blame the Constitution, or shall we concede that we have failed to implement even some of the basics that the Constitution actually provides for? Tate Lehohla?
No, thank you very much, Director. I think let me start by saying, had Minister Lindiwe Sisulu not done what she has done, we wouldn't be having this debate. It would be buried.
Yeah, well, I'll be at home
having dinner.
Yeah, all right.
it is important from that perspective that she has mentioned this thing, and she is getting the country to talk about what was not spoken of. In particular, as we move towards State of the Nation address and the budget speech. Having said that, one has to say, well, there's blame to be apportioned.
Yes.
But I doubt if the balance of the blame belongs to the Constitution, nor does it belong to the judiciary, because the judiciary has shown their teeth in terms of contempt of court, including sending a former president to jail, including Khulodbo, including a number of injunctions that were made by the Constitutional Court that were not acceded to. Let me just put a rider on this. The Constitution says the rights should be progressively attained. And one can clearly see from 1996 up to about 2010 that those rights were progressively attained. There has been a regression. The question is the Constitutional Court, if anybody presented the case, take action when the rights are being regressed? For instance, the budget speech of last year took away from the poor what they were allocated. And of course, Treasury said, well, we are in trouble, we don't have money. But the question is, are the rights to be progressively attained or regressively attained? So in that respect, I think the Constitutional Court has a lot to decide and preside over. And as we go into the State of the Nation address and the next budget speech, so that we deal with these matters that have been on the agenda for a long time. I think from a point of the executive and Parliament, I think they've been very delinquent, to put it bluntly, from 2012. So the issues that Minister Sisulu is raising, I think the blame falls squarely and to a large extent on the executive. But having said that, at her level, with her experience, she has set the tone for South Africa to deal with these long-standing problems of poverty, inequality, and unemployment.
Yeah.
And I think for that, she has made a major contribution.
Yeah, let me come back to you, Irvin, on that one. I want us to just zone in on the issues that are raised and who should be to blame, because I'm still hung up on this thing that where you're saying that these people do not have a revolutionary agenda. And Tate Lehohla is saying put the blame more on the executive, which tends to align with what you are saying, that there's no revolutionary agenda. But will that be changed tomorrow if the Constitution were to be amended somewhat? Or that revolutionary agenda will continue to be dead regardless of what you change in the Constitution?
Well, you can take a horse to the river, JJ. If it doesn't want to drink, it's not going to drink. and all cultural rights, guarantees.
Yeah.
And by the way, rights.
But that's very
generic. By the way, no,
wait, Ivan, but that's very generic. Give me 2 or 3 things, right, that are in the Constitution now that will in a sense go against the majority of people.
Section 25.
No, wait about 25, the land.
Why?
We'll come to the land. No, because they collectively failed as Parliament to change it, to speak. I want to deal with the Constitution, because Lindiwe Sisulu is not having a big philosophical debate about the land. He's saying the whole Constitution, whose law is this anyway? It doesn't, accord with African values and so on. He's throwing the baby with the bathwater. And I'm saying to you, point to me 2 or 3 things that the Constitution is doing to disadvantage you and me, as opposed to a lack of a revolutionary agenda that you are talking about.
I'm saying we struggled for years.
Yeah.
One of the things that we talked about was that 87% of the land is in the hands of a tiny white minority in this country. Today, less than 10% of that land is still in that tiny minority. Our people are still in dingy houses. They are packed like sardines. They don't have access to land. And I'm saying, through that constitution with the property clause and private property, you cannot, the ANC, they can talk and talk because they are not prepared.
But there is an opportunity to amend it. So let's park that and say...
No, but you can't, that's not the issue.
Yeah, what else should be amended?
Lindiwe says our people do not have land. Our people are basically plunged into poverty, unemployment. They have everybody, defenders of democracy in this country. There are volunteers here called themselves defenders of democracy. They are celebrating rule of law. They are doing everything when our people do not have jobs.
I'm going to come back to you. Rife. You must tell me what if you had power tomorrow, right? What parts of the Constitution would you change to respond to the poverty in this country? And I'll come back to you. Just think about it a little bit. Judge, let me come to you. Please deal with, for me, the issue of the instrumentality of the Constitution in changing the lives of our people. I think that's really at the heart of the debate. If you read most of this article outside the insults to the judges and what, if you read everything else, it's about how can we make this Constitution an instrument of transformation.
Absolutely, you are right. And Comrade Pallo, hello. I must say hello to you, and I must pay my respect to you again, because you have been a wonderful comrade to me, and I have to acknowledge that in public here.
Thank you.
Now,
thank you, comrade.
Yes, we have been comrades for a long time, Pallo, and we will remain such forever. But let me say that the Constitution doesn't do anything by itself. Sorry. You can't blame the Constitution because the Constitution obliges the state to do certain things.
Yes.
The problem is, has the Constitution failed or has the state failed?
Yes.
So, let me say that in my view, it is the state that has failed, and I would like to explain why. Section 25 of the Constitution, about which a lot has been said, says that just and equitable compensation must be paid for the expropriation of property. Of course, one would have expected in 1994 for the new government to change the law, because the law in 1994, as it is still now, they have refused to change it, although I have raised it with ministers of justice repeatedly, still says compensation must be on market value. So they have not changed. They've continued with the Apartheid Expropriation Act without changing it. And I know the reason for that. It is speculation, but the time has now come to be straightforward, because I'm old now and I have to say what I have to say. You see, if you go for just and equitable compensation, there's no room for corruption taking money away from the top. So the only reason I think that the legislation has remained saying that there must be market value compensation is to ensure that there is continuous corruption all the way through so that those people can get rich. So at that level, it is not the constitution, it is the state and the government which has deliberately ignored the constitution and has deliberately failed to pass a law to provide for just and equitable compensation. And nobody has given an explanation for that in any situation at all. So that is the land question. See, what we had in mind, and I was one of the people who negotiated the interim constitution, I had 3 weeks of sleepless nights on this issue, I must tell you, and it was a very, very, very difficult time. In fact, my family life virtually broke down at that time. And the issue was, how do you effect a balance? Because on the one hand, you say, okay, we'll continue, but my view was that if you went the revolutionary route, there had been too much bloodshed and too much damage, and we could not go that route. And I still stick to that. Although when I was young and I read Marcuse and One Dimensional Man and so on, I believed all sorts of different things. But I think that bloodshed we should try and avoid.
Yeah, Judge.
So that was the one side. Yeah.
Yeah, Judge, just pause that one. I need to take a break.
No, call me Zach. It is fine. Absolutely fine.
All right, sir.
Don't call me Judge. Go for it.
I'm going to take a break. Now, when I come back, I want to zone in exactly where you ended off now. Is this constitution, therefore, a compromise that whose time for review has come? Now, I want everyone to weigh in on that, because as Pali Lehohla said, it's a debate that the minister has clearly started, and then we must finish it now and say, do we now need to rewrite this constitution? And I hope, Irvin Jim, you have done your homework now, and I come back. That's what we're going to be dealing with. Let's take a break now.